Hey everyone, my name is Masha and today we're going to be looking at common mistakes that beginners make when making friendship bracelets. So as some of you may know, I'm currently on holiday in Miami visiting my family, and my little cousin requested that I teach her how to make friendship bracelets. So I did, and I started off by teaching her how to make a chevron to make sure that she learns how to do forward knots and backward knots. And I thought that the chevron is the easiest way to do that, and to learn them both simultaneously while it still being quite a simple pattern for her to make. So at the beginning she was doing pretty well, but then something happened and she messed up, and that led to a whole series of mistakes, resulting in this giant mess at the end. So I thought this was the perfect opportunity to have a look at some mistakes that beginners make when making friendship bracelets. So let's look them over one by one. So as I said, the beginning was pretty good, but then about here I start seeing some issues. This bit over here with the string sticking out, that's just a little bit of excess green string. So this issue could be fixed by just tying the string more tightly. You can see that clearly here as well. There's just a bit of extra green string coming out the sides. It's not really a big issue or mistake, but if you want to make sure that your knots are more neat, you would just tie it tighter, and it will be the first half of the knot that you have to tie tighter rather than the second half, because once you've done the second half you've already made the knot. It's quite difficult to fix. So with the first half of your knot, tie it a little bit tighter, push it further up here. See, there's like a hole. You'd push it further up into the hole, placing the knot inside that place instead of further down. And then once you make the second half, it closes it off and you won't have that issue anymore. Same goes for here. We've got a little bit of excess green string on the side, a little bit of excess sort of grey string, I guess, on this side. That would be all fixed by tying the first half of your knot a little bit tighter. And when I say tying it tighter, for example, when my cousin was making this bracelet, she would make the knot and then she would pull it like that. That's not a very good way to tie the string. When you're tying the string, you should tie it from closer up. So for example, you make a knot like this, right? Instead of pulling it here and pushing it up like that, come a little bit closer, pull it from here. That way you get greater precision and it's easier for you to make than you just pulling from way over here. It's more difficult for you to pull, and if you pull from closer up you get greater precision and it's easier for you to make. But I'm gonna untie this because I don't need that. So coming back to the issue with like excess string, if you look here, this grey knot right here, it's not an issue with excess string, it's just the fact that the knot is sort of wider. It's very long, it's not nice and neat, it's a very long knot that she made right there. To fix that, the second knot that you make, you would make tighter. But to fix the excess string on the side, you make the first knot a little bit tighter, but to fix the fact of the knot being super long, you would tie the second string a bit tighter. Basically what I'm trying to say is tie your knots tighter, both of them. So the real issue stems from around here. So this is the row where she made her first mistake. And what she did here is she switched the strings that she was using. So she was meant to be doing a blue row of just a chevron, but instead she messed up and she twisted her string, switching it to the green by accident, and then continued making it with the green. So once it came to the green, because the green is next after the blue, she didn't know what to do, so she started making these random knots trying to fix it, and she couldn't figure out how to fix it, and I left her to do it alone because I was busy with something else. I should have been with her, but again, provided nice material for a video. She basically started trying to fix it herself, resulting in this whole situation. So basically to fix this now, I'm gonna have to untie it way up until here. So this is what the root of the issue was. She messed up the string and she didn't realize what she was doing was a mistake, because she doesn't really know. She's 9 years old, she didn't really realize that that was a mistake and that it shouldn't look like that. And that's an issue with a lot of beginners. Beginners don't understand what the bracelet should look like, so they don't notice their mistakes straight away. And so she just continued going with the green string, thinking that that is what it's supposed to be. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to untie all of this and then see what she does from that point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to untie all of this up until here and then help her, guide her through making the rest of the bracelet, because as I said, when she wasn't making mistakes, she was actually doing it really nicely. It's just one mistake that led to this entire situation for her. So since we're here, since we're in Miami as well, so this is a bracelet that I made for my grandmother, probably in around 2010, also on one of my visits to Miami, because that's where my grandmother lives. And this was probably one of the first alpha bracelets that I did. And as you can see, it's not great. it's not great. And it just goes to show that, you know, everything comes with practice. Like this is what one of my first alphas looked like. It looked terrible, and let's go through all the mistakes here as well. So first of all, there's no tie situation going on. It's just a knot coming off with a bit of string. That's not a mistake. That's just a thing that I would do differently now. But I mean, it looks fine. So that's not an issue at all. We can see that there are some strings, so you can see the white string peeking through here. You can see that I've got the base strings, they are white in this bracelet, but you can see them peeking through on the sides. So to fix that, again, that's a tightness issue. So you would push your knots further up on the string, so you bunch them up. You see all these gaps, these are all gaps where you see all the white string peeking through. You would push your knots up higher and sort of into those gaps, thus closing the gaps so you won't have them anymore. Another issue that I can very clearly see in this bracelet is here. For example, in the eye, you can see that the actual knots are much further down than they're supposed to be, because there's a bit of white string sticking out going that way on each of them. Again, it's a tightness issue, and with this being the first knot, you would tie the first knot much tighter, pushing the knot up and making sure that it stays there before you do the final bit of the knot, the second bit. Before you do the second half of your knot, the first half of your knot is where the knot is going to be positioned. So you're going to be very careful pushing the knot up into place where it needs to be before you make the second knot. That's the same issue with every single one here. With every single row that I made, you can see bits of string poking through vertically where they shouldn't be, because I didn't make the first half of my knot correctly. Here in the letter V, you can see the green string poking through out from where it shouldn't be. This should be ideally just a row of white going there and there. There should not be any green string poking through. And if you watched my how to make alpha bracelets tutorial, or how to read alpha patterns, I guess the video is called, you would see how I change my strings when I'm making an alpha bracelet. And this was not what I did here. Over here, I put the string in the wrong position. When I change my alpha strings now, I push them back behind the bracelet, making sure that none of the strings intertwine or sort of intersect or pull each other when I'm making a knot. Watch the other video that I was talking about, the how to read alpha patterns video, to really see what I'm talking about, because I'm not going to be showing it here. But I did not do this here. I put the string in the wrong position, and that is why you can see that there are green strings poking through where they shouldn't be. So yeah, pushing the string back would be how you fix this issue. And again, the demonstration is in a different video. Right here I can see that I completely missed a knot for some reason. There should be another green knot here that I just didn't do. I don't know why that happened, but that would be how I would close this gap here. I would just make the knot that's supposed to be there that isn't there for some reason. And all this general wobbliness, for example, like, there's no real reason as to why all of this is wobbly. As I was saying, yeah, knot tightness, making the knots tighter would have closed all these gaps. But in reality, it just takes practice. Every single time someone starts making bracelets, their bracelets look terrible, especially alphas. Alphas are especially difficult to master. Every single bracelet, every single thing that you do in life in general takes time and takes effort. So if you're making bracelets that look like this, don't worry. If you put in the time and the effort and you really want to improve, you'll improve. It's not like a secret. It's not that people who make bracelets better than you do right now know something that you don't know. Maybe on some issues, but in general, it just takes practice. So don't worry. Like, as I was saying, it just takes practice. But again, there are some other issues that I want to talk about. So for example here, this isn't particularly an issue, more as is a stylistic choice now that I prefer to do. You can see that there's bumpiness here. So the green string is coming out and it's coming out bumpy. I'm actually going to film a video soon of how to keep the edges of your alpha straight, and I'm going to demonstrate in that video. I'll link it if it's out in the card in the description. But basically the idea is when you're making an alpha bracelet, and when you get to the edge, on the right edge usually you make a forward knot, and then on the left edge you make a backward knot going that way. Instead of doing that, make a forward backward knot on the right edge and a backward forward knot on the left edge, and that would sort of push your string inside rather than out, so it won't be bumpy here like that. But as I said, a demonstration will be in a different video. Here you can see that there is string poking out like that. So as you know, in alpha bracelets or in any other bracelets, you can add a string to your bracelets if you run out, but never ever ever add string to the edge as I did here. I added string to the edge, to the very last string on the side, which is why there is string sticking out. When you add string, there is always going to be string sticking out, because there's going to be the string that you removed, the one that finished, and the other end of the string that you added. There's going to be two, as here there are two bits of string sticking out. But usually when you add strings to alphas, they stick out from the back, and then you cut them off and you can't see them from the back. It's not visible. But here I added it to the side, so it's sticking out from the side. Never add strings to the side. It doesn't look good. Add them somewhere in the middle so you can have the strings poking out from the back, thus not looking bad because you can't see the other side. That's exactly the same thing that I did here, and it's not great. Just don't do that. Don't do that. So yeah, that's all I have to say about my bracelet and the bracelet that my cousin did. Now let's look at some of the bracelets that you guys sent in to me on Instagram after I asked on my Instagram story. Make sure to follow me on Instagram so that you can see some exclusive content that I post only there, and also so I can interact more with you guys. I interact with you guys a lot via messages or through my Instagram stories or posts, so definitely be sure to follow me there to join in on all the fun. So I really do apologize for butchering all of your names once again, but I have no idea how to pronounce most of them, so I'm gonna try my best. Timea K sent me this picture, and she says, I was pulling a little too hard and the string snapped off. That is kind of funny, because that happens to me sometimes as well, but also very sad because it is extremely annoying when that happens. But especially with alpha bracelets, it's really not a big deal. You can add string to your bracelets, and I'm going to link the video in which I demonstrate how to do that in the card and in the description down below, so you can check it out. But yeah, that is definitely fixable. You can add a bit of string instead of that one. So, Likavel sent me this picture and says, here's my current struggle, the knot tension. The whole thing is so uneven. And to be honest, I don't really know what to say here. If you guys have any suggestions, leave them in the comments for Likavel. Maybe you guys can help out. Because I'm actually really bad at making candy stripes. I don't know what it is, but even if I use the straight edges technique, which Likavel has said that they used, and I can actually see that in the picture as well, I can see that they used the straight edges technique. I don't know why, but I find it really difficult to make candy stripes look even, because if I don't use the straight edges technique, they curl up and they look uneven. But if I do use the straight edges technique, then they just look uneven, pretty much the same way as in this picture as well. So I honestly have no idea how to help you fix this issue. I'm really sorry, but hopefully someone in the comments will be able to help. They also write, maybe this will help anybody figure out what the root of the issue is, but they also write, I feel like when I move the bracelet, for example, clip it higher up so that it's easier to knot, that messes it up too, but it's just so uncomfortable knotting when only the loop is clipped and you're getting to the end of the bracelet and the whole thing just hangs in the air instead of being attached to the clipboard, if that makes sense. So yeah, if that helps in any way, maybe someone in the comments will be able to help you out, because I genuinely have no idea, because that happens to me too, and I don't know how to fix it. So 15Luke15 sent in this beautiful picture of a mustache bracelet, which I can see contains quite a lot of mistakes. Let's go through them one by one. So the first one, the first mustache, is perfect, no issues, looks amazing. The second mustache, I can very clearly see that right around in the middle of it, you flipped the bracelet and you started making it on the other side. Don't do that. Don't do that. Make sure you make your bracelet on one side, unless of course you're going for that effect and you want it to look like that. That is a whole separate issue. But since you sent in this bracelet to my question of where you have made mistakes and you don't know how to fix them, I'm thinking you probably didn't want that to happen. So yeah, I can see that in the middle you flipped your bracelet, maybe by accident, and you started making it on the other side. So again, to fix that issue, you'd probably have to untie that bit and redo it from the correct side. But since you've made quite a lot of it, to be honest, it doesn't even look that bad. It looks okay, it looks coherent, it's still the same mustache, so I wouldn't really give it much of a second thought. However, with the third bracelet, you messed up the pattern. So the first half of the mustache looks amazing, just how it's supposed to be. You then, from the second bracelet, you flipped back at some point, so you only did a little bit of that on the other side. You flipped right back once you finished that middle bit. But with the second bracelet, I can see that right around the middle is where you got a little bit confused maybe with the rows, and you started doing a different row than what you should have been, and you messed up the pattern. So to fix that, again, probably just be untying that bit with like a pin or something. And again, in the fixing your mistakes video, I showed you how to untie stuff, so if you want to check that out for actual demonstration. But yeah, untying that and then remaking it actually correctly according to the pattern would be how to fix that issue. But overall, in general, just, I don't know, be more careful. Just be more attentive to detail and make sure that you don't miss rows. Sometimes I find maybe if you're doing it on a piece of paper, if you printed it out, maybe like marking down where you are, which row you're doing could be helpful. Or maybe if you're doing it on a laptop, you could put your mouse on the row where you have finished making so that you don't lose the row that you're on. I find that to be quite helpful. So yeah, in general, just be more attentive. But overall, great bracelet, great job. Like, it has potential to be perfect, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. So Nicole Brooklyn sent in this beautiful picture and said that one of the yellow strings broke off as I was trying to tie a knot, so now there isn't an even number of strings on both sides. As I said in a previous submission, you can just tie in a string, just like you do with alphas. Alphas tying in a string is especially easy because you just do that all the time anyway. But with normal bracelets, you can also just tie in a string. There will just be a little bit of string sticking out from the other side, but since you're wearing the bracelet on one side anyway, it's not that big of a deal. So just add an extra string and just go with it. It's not a big deal. That's definitely easily fixable. And watch my Fixing Your Mistakes video to see a demonstration of how to add string. The Bracelet Club sent in a picture of this beautiful bracelet, and I'll be honest, I'm a little bit confused as to what is going on here. So the first picture that they sent in, they highlighted the area that they wanted me to talk about. Then they sent a second picture, which is a little bit more zoomed in into that area. And I can see that there is a sort of hole in the middle of it, and I'm assuming that is the issue that you're talking about. I am confused as to how that hole came to be. How did it occur? What happened in this bracelet to produce that hole? If anybody else watching this video in the comments or anything could let us know how they think this happened and how to fix that, that would be great, because I am genuinely a little bit confused. I don't understand what is going on here. But what I can say on a completely separate issue that they did not ask me to talk about, but I can see that it is there, the nose of the dog, this brown string that is sticking out, that is exactly what I was talking about when I was showing you the bracelet that I made for my grandmother. You added a string, or in this case you removed a string, at the edge. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. I see that you have to do that here on the pattern because the last knot is on the edge, but to avoid the string sticking out from the edge, instead of doing a backward knot that you did here, do a backward forward knot. Then the edge of the string won't be on the side, it would be in the middle, so it would be between the last and the second to last knot. Therefore, you can push the string out sort of behind the bracelet and it won't be sticking out from the edge. So that would be how you fix that, but I don't know what to do with the hole, so if someone else can help me out in the comments, that would be great. But anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for sending in your bracelets. I had a lot of fun looking through them and trying, sometimes failing, but trying to help you out, try and help you fix some of your issues. I hope you learned something from today's video, or maybe reaffirmed some knowledge that you already had. And I hope this helps you out in future bracelets that you make. Thank you guys for watching. I post videos every Tuesday and Saturday, and I will see you on Saturday. Bye!